Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue ones that came out for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, guys, you came to the right place. Why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button? Also, if you want to become a member of my YouTube channel, as low as 99 cents, guys, you get early access to my videos. You'll get badges for as long as you've been a member of my channel for, and you also get stickers where you can leave, where you leave your comments and during live stream. So it does help support the channel. It's much appreciated, and of course, I appreciate everybody that leaves a comment, subscribes, and does all that crap to the channel. So with that being said, guys, let's get started with this week's episode. So I'm really excited about this week's new number ones. I feel good. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm pretty much over this cold. So I have my charisma back. I have my energy back. So let's get going. We're talking about Robo Force issue 1. This is a $5 comic book. This one's written by Melissa Flores, and the penciler inker? The inker is done by, I can't even say the Diegnos Neves. It's cool. Okay, listen, it reminds you of a cartoon, right? Now, when it comes to Robo Force, like a lot of this stuff, I guess, was made in the 80s or early 90s or something like that. I don't remember this. I don't remember it as a toy line. I don't remember it as a cartoon. I don't remember anything. And I was just like, who are all these guys? And it doesn't even remind me of like a Saturday morning cartoon. It reminds me of a Sunday morning cartoon. If you were a kid growing up in the 80s, you looked forward to your Saturday morning cartoons, even in the 90s. And then there was Sunday, right? And then you woke up and you're like, these cartoons will do, I guess. And that's what Robo Force kind of reminded me of, like when it came to a comic book. It didn't remind me of an A-tier comic book. I appreciate the story that they're trying to tell here, but this was something that I just could not gravitate to. Nothing against the writer or the artist or anything else. I just felt that this type of story was just very lackluster to me, and I don't see myself continuing it, so this book is not worthy. It's just basically about these robots that were created, and they were basically upon release, they were already extinct, and then they wound up getting meaningless jobs, right? And then their inventor got some technology that was stolen from them against a rival company, and that was it. The problem that I had with this book is there were so many different robots introduced, and you kind of couldn't get a real feel of like their personalities and what their real purpose is here. And I don't know, I just felt like issue 1 was kind of just a little bit trying to accomplish way too much, way too soon. Maybe introduce a couple of these robots at once. It just was not a book for me. Very average. It's an all ages type of book. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a C-. And unfortunately, I probably will not be continuing this going forward. This is just not up my wheelhouse. I thought I would like this, but the book that I might be looking forward to is The Sectors. I think I remember that when I was younger. The newest Dynamite issue 1 is Space Ghost. Issue 1. Yes, this is a $5 comic book written by David Pepose, and the art is done by Jonathan Liu. The artwork is good, man. The artwork really surprised me in this comic. It was a lot better than I expected. Here we get to see Space Ghost using his armbands in here against, what is his name, Bragg or something like that. He looks really good as well. Good facial expressions in there. And then just like Space Ghost himself, he looks absolutely ripped. I pointed that out on my newest comic book day haul. And I will compare this book. I'll compare a lot of issue 1s for Dynamite with like Thundercats. Thundercats artwork wasn't all that great. Thundercats had too many moving pieces into it. And for me, I felt like this is kind of a way you do issue 1. You don't overwhelm readers that may not be familiar with the property, and you do a nice little setup issue. We get our 3 main characters, maybe 4 if you count the little monkey blip, but you got Jana, right, and Jace, if I remember correctly, and then you got Space Ghost. And then we get to see these guys when they're maybe a little bit younger, right? And we get to see that they're being overrun by space pirates. Their dad dies, and they have this technology that people want. There's a bounty on top of their heads. And here comes Space Ghost. Space Ghost comes in, firing all cylinders, you know, destroying all these guys. And the cool thing about this is Space Ghost is very much like a mystery. He's like Batman in space. It's like Batman off-world, right? It's kind of cool, man. It's just like he's dark, he's edgy. If you watch the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, it was a little bit more lighthearted. Here it's a little bit more darker. Again, it just gets you introduced to the characters and a little bit of what is to come for the comic book. This book is worthy. I think this is a nice way to do issue 1. You don't overwhelm, you know, readers with a bunch of characters, and I think issue 2 and future issues might actually be better. So I'm going to definitely continue this book. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below and what you thought of Space Ghost issue 1. When I grade this book, I'm going to give this one a B+. I didn't expect it to be this good. I can honestly tell you that, because when I was younger and I watched Space Ghost, I thought he was kind of cool, but I thought it was a little bit cheesy. And this was not cheesy. This was a little bit edgy, a little bit darker, a little bit, you know, more made for the adults out there. So I'm going on with issue 2. Get Fury, issue 1. This book is 28 pages for the price of $4. Garth Ennis is the one that writes it, and Jason Burrows is the one that draws this book. Now look at how little it says explicit content on that comic book. Unlike another book we're going to be talking about later. In this book, if you want to polybag something, this is the book that should have it, right? Because in very many ways, this book is very explicit. There's curse words, excuse the language here, like fuck. And there's another curse word, like cocksucker. And I was not expecting hearing those words in this comic book. Where unlike another book we're going to talk about later, doesn't have those words in it, which maybe I was expecting, right? And when it comes to the art in this comic book, it looks really good. You know, you feel like you're in the war, they're in the jungle, it feels hot and steamy, things are very tense, and I'm just showing you here, but like, this is not for the lighthearted, but dude gets a machete to the face, bro, and his eyeballs popping out. I don't think we see something like that, right? And this is more real in my eyes than the other book we'll talk about in a little later, because these are events that actually happened, and this could like trigger some people. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that, you're just like, holy crap. So this is something that I would say, if you want to polybag it, like this should be it, right? This book was really cool, unexpectedly good, because we wind up seeing Frank Castle, right, and Nick Fury in this comic book. Nick Fury winds up getting captured, and this is back in 1971 during Vietnam, and he's been captured by the Viet Cong. So Frank Castle has been recruited in this comic book to go after him, because the CIA realizes that he has information that the Viet Cong can try to steal from him. So that's why they're hiring Frank Castle to rescue Nick Fury. Now, the setup in this comic book, it took a little while on where it needed to go, but once it got to the point, and especially the ending in this comic book, it was definitely a worthy book. It definitely had me hooked to read issue 2 here, because I want to see Frank Castle now kick ass and take names in this series. So if I graded this comic book, this one is going to be a B+ as well. Again, it took a little while to get to, but the payoff was nice. A number one tends to be set up issues, right? And you got to be patient sometimes. And at the end, your cliffhanger should pay off and be like, yes, there we go. I'm ready for issue 2, and I am ready for issue 2 on this. Deadpool Wolverine World War III. This is issue 1. This is a 36-page comic for the price of $5. The writer here is Joe Kelly, and the art is done by Adam Kubert. Let me tell you, boy, when it comes to the artwork in this book, it's freaking phenomenal. Now, I'm going to point this out quite a bit in this episode of Worthy Ones. There is no explicit content anywhere on this comic book, right? But like on the very front page, you got Wolverine just being stabbed to death by all kinds of other weapons, and there's blood gushing from him, right? In this comic with this phenomenal artwork that I will point out to you, there's a whole page here with Wolverine who's getting shot at, blood squirting all over the place, right? And then there's another page here where he's dripping blood. And then there's another couple pages here where I'm going to show this to you. Just be patient for a second. Where, yeah, he just basically gets stabbed right here in the gut. And blood goes flying all over the place. Is that not violent enough for you to put the explicit content banner on there? I don't know. There's no real curse words in this book. And you do get the up and down calendar style of art in this book as well. So it definitely, has you flipping and turning and keeping you engaged. So that's a pretty bloody page too. Excuse me. So what's this comic about anyway? I don't know. I honestly could not tell you guys. This book jumped around all over for me. I found myself lost. And the action was really good. The interactions between Deadpool and Wolverine were actually really good. All that narration was cool. The opening sequence was kind of neat because you got to see Wolverine face off against, what was his name? Wildside. So that was awesome. But I don't think it's really him. And then we wound up getting to see Wolverine go to a bar. He winds up getting captured, and then all of a sudden he's back in his normal uniform. He's in is it Russia or Canada? Where is he at? I don't even know. And then he comes across Deadpool like this, and then they start fighting, and I'm just freaking lost. I had no idea where I was at in this comic book. And I'm like, okay, I think this book is only 3 issues. So will issue 2 make me connect the dots and understand the story more? Hopefully. So I guess for now, this book is worthy, but I just felt completely lost, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Excuse me. Let me know in the comments below if you felt the same way, or if you completely understood what was going on in this comic book. And if you did, please explain it to me. So for me not being understanding what's going on in it, going over my head, so I'm going to give this one a C+. If I understood what was going on, I might give this one a higher grade, but man, I felt completely lost. It's unfortunate. Vengeance of Moonight. This is issue 5. So the reason why we're talking about this book is that it's a Bloodhunt tie-in. Not only is it a Bloodhunt tie-in, but this is the book you should read before you read actual Bloodhunt issue 1, as this is a precursor of things to come. Now let's talk about the things that do happen in this book. Legacy numbering 235. This is a 28-page comic for $5. This book is written by Jed MacKay, so obviously you understand now why it ties in. And the artwork here is done by Alessandro Capicchio. I can never say his name right. The artwork is always superb in this comic book. It's just so dark. It's beautifully drawn. It's also beautifully colored here by Rachel Rosenberg. It just screams out at you, man. It's so nice. I love the way Tigra is as well. But look at this page with the Shroud. So in the last issue, you found out that the Shroud was this new Moon Knight character. And obviously, he's kind of wants to be the next Moon Knight. And Tigra gives him the whole spiel. You have to earn things. You can't just take it and pretend and this and that. And so you get the whole story with that, right? And obviously, he was he is made to be the main person in this comic book because it's the lead-in to Bloodhunt. Now, the other side of this story is we have another, confessional, or I guess a therapy session here with 8-Ball. And besides Tigra, 8-Ball is my favorite character in its comic book. He's such a great, CD lister character. And in this comic book, he's constantly talking to the therapist on how he wants to, change his life and not necessarily be the hero. He can never feel like he consider himself be the hero, but do things for the better, right? And he looks up to Moon Knight as if Moon Knight can do things, if he can change things around, why can't he, right? And so no longer is he going to be in the sidelines, but he's going to be on the playing field, helping things go right, And I love that. I thought that was so cool, right? And then as you're reading this for the first time, then you see something go strangely wrong with the Shroud. He starts experiencing some kind of mental attack or some kind of breakdown, and then he winds up basically exploding, and you get to see that here in the page. And then it says to be continued in Bloodhunt. So again, this is the book that you're going to want to read, right? So this book for me was worth it. I really enjoyed it. Great overall story, as well as tying into the Bloodhunt main storyline. And when you do read Bloodhunt, or when you read your comics this week, if you haven't read them, try to read this book, then read Bloodhunt, because then they have solicitations already for Bloodhunt issue 4, and it kind of spoils what happens at the end of Bloodhunt issue 1. I don't know why they would do that in this current comic book week, but that's me talking about something else. But as an overall issue, I really like this. It accomplishes a lot of things in here. So I'm going to give this one an A-. The only thing that's missing from this book is Moon Knight himself. But I love this book. I think it's really, really good. Here we go, guys. Bloodhunt issue 1. The long-awaited Bloodhunt is here. People are always dreading events. Some people are excited about them. I'm always optimistic. Hopefully that they'll be good, right? This book is 40 pages. This is a $6 comic book. This is written by Jed McKay, and the art is done by Pepe Larez. No explicit content on this comic book, but there is definitely some things that go on in this one, even though this is not the Red Band edition, where you're kind of like, wow, that's pretty violent. But the artwork in this comic is really well done. It's very dark because the sun has been blocked out by all these Dark Force users. As I explained earlier, it started off with the Shroud. So all of a sudden, these Dark Force users, their power wound up exploding, and it blocks out the entire sun. And it's called Sun Death, right? And then all of a sudden, all these vampires appear out of nowhere. This seems like this huge epic event that just happens out of the blue, and it catches all of the heroes and Avengers off guard. We're introduced to these characters right here by the name of the Blood Coven. And they all have their own distinct powers. And then all of a sudden, they're going after the Avengers in here in the Impossible City. And they totally outmatch our Avengers characters, okay? And it was pretty interesting to see the Avengers get their asses beat in this comic book. And here is a page here where you're like, okay, that's pretty graphic, where you get Thor, who gets freaking stake to the head, right? And some other characters that wind up getting pretty damaged in this comic as well. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of the comic book, you wind up seeing the person who becomes the ruler of the Blood Coven, which you did not expect. Now, this is going to be a spoiler, so I'm going to give you a few seconds here. In 3, 2, 1. And our ruler of this Blood Coven is none other than Blade himself. And I was like, holy crap, spoiler over. And I just did not see that coming. And I thought that was pretty cool. I stayed away from all the other solicitations, so I was kind of surprised here. So for me, this book was worthy. I had a lot of fun with this book. Could you say that this book is perfect? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's perfect. Things just happen out of the blue. It all seems very rushed, very epic in scale, and you're kind of like, wait, why did this happen? Why did that happen? But I really enjoyed it, and sometimes with comics, you can't overanalyze things, right? I think that's when we get jaded towards them, and you just got to look at this as a fun, action-packed popcorn flick, and that's what I did with this comic. I thought it was very entertaining to see this sun death actually happen, right? And just seeing time pass within about an hour, where our Earth's mightiest heroes wind up getting their asses handed to them here. So definitely pick this one up. I'm gonna say this one is another B+. I don't think this is the best, comic event I've ever read, but it definitely had a lot of action with good artwork, and I have a lot of questions, and hopefully they'll get answered along the way. So I'll recommend this one. I think you should read it. Bloodhunt Red Band Edition Issue 1, the poly-bagged. Is it worth that extra money to get the Red Band Edition, right? Is it so graphic to the point where you have to hide your eyes and read it? It is a 48-page comic for $7. So for 8 more pages, you pay $1 more. After actually reading this comic, I was not surprised that there is definitely not 8 pages more content. I would say there's a few more ads in this book and maybe like 2 more pages of content, because in the beginning I was like, if there's actually 8 more pages of content, it's got to seriously affect the story, right? But that's not the case here, guys, and we're going to go over it. We're going to compare the two here, and we're going to see if this is worthy of that poly bag, because we talked about some comics earlier that were worthy of a poly bag and maybe a bigger explicit content on the cover, and this one says explicit content, and I don't think it was that bad. So let's talk about it, okay? So in the beginning of this comic, it opens up basically the same way, okay? Now, again, this is going to be spoilers. If you haven't read your copy, please, hold back on watching this. We get to see the introduction. That's the same. Here is page 2. Here is page 3. This is exactly the same as the book that I showed you earlier. So far, all the same. All the same. All right. Here's one difference. So here's your difference for your opening page right here, the opening title page, right? And here is your opening title page for the non-polybagged. And the only difference is it says it's appropriate for, certain audience. It has explicit content. All right. So then when we open up this comic book, then this page, that's the same. This page, exactly the same, okay? So we're going to go through it right here. So let's see. So here was one thing I noticed that was different. Why they changed this panel. This is from the original, right? And then here is the next one. And I'm like, okay, why did you change that? Is that supposed to be scary for me? And from that point on, there is no real significant difference in this comic. Everything is the same. The only thing I noticed is that the pages change in order a little bit, so there can be a couple more ads, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And then when the fight happens between our Avengers and the Blood Coffin, right? There's nothing really that changes except one real scene here. Okay, I thought this would be different. This is from the Red Band Edition. This is the same, and that's a pretty dark moment. I thought maybe we would get more details, and that's a very easy change that you can make. But again, the same, guys. Okay, so let's go here now a little bit further. There's one part in here where Black Panther is pissed off because he's going after Captain America, which is Falcon in this comic book, and he's trying to protect him. And there is one change here where we wind up getting to see Captain America, or Falcon, I keep saying, he's not murdered in this. You see him get murdered, but you don't see the gory details. And then this comic, in the Red Band edition, you wind up seeing him get thrusted from the bad guy right here. And it's not that dark, actually. Like, yeah, you get to see his hand go through him, but there's no real blood or anything there. Not like in that freaking Nick Fury comic book, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So nothing really there. That is the added page that you wind up getting to here. And then the next added page into that scene is just a scene of the environment. Okay, where you're like, oh, this is the way the world ends. And you get to see just like vampires eating other humans. You get to see a bus on fire. And you wind up getting to see people on stakes. And that is the other page difference. So far I get like 2 pages difference here. We get the moment in here where Clea and Doctor Strange are talking. That's the same right here and here. So there you go. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this comic, I did reveal to you who the bad guy is. So I'm going to reveal it again. So here is the end of the comic. Here is the, rated PG version of the comic right here. And then this is the most graphic part of the comic, I would assume, where we see Blade slices Doctor Strange in half. It's probably not even the real Doctor Strange, in my opinion, but that is the difference. So there you have it. There are the 2 different. So 2 pages of added content. There was more, I think, advertisements in this comic book, and it really isn't all that bloody, to the point where I'm like, do you need the explicit content banner and polybag on that? No, total cash grab, in my opinion, when it comes to that. So do I say it's worthy to buy this comic book? Yes, it is worthy, because I feel like if you want the full experience, buy the polybag and skip out on the regular edition. For the $1 more an hour, get the extra couple pages to enhance the story a little bit and get the more graphic content. But if you are collecting a comic, right, and you feel like you need both copies, definitely not necessary. Definitely not necessary to keep it polybagged and thinking it's going to be worth money and all that other stuff. So if I had to give this one a grade, I'm going to knock it down a little bit better, or a little bit worse, because it doesn't deliver the way I wanted to. I thought they were going to be super graphic. I thought they were going to say all kinds of curse words. I thought, Marvel was going to push the envelope. Where they pushed the envelope was Nick Fury, right? That's where they pushed the envelope. So I'm going to give the Red Band edition a B-, because I felt like it just was weak and a little bit lackluster on the gore. So I think I'll just buy the Red Band edition and not buy the regular one, but you definitely don't need both. So just future notes, guys, I will be buying both copies to continue to analyze what are the difference between the Bloodhunt regular and the Bloodhunt Red Band edition, to see if it does get more gorier as time goes along. If my gut told me after reading this first one, I don't think so, but I'll be here to cover it. So there are my thoughts on all the newest #1s for this current comic book day week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Leave me all those comments down below on what you thought. If you love the content, here is my newest comic book day haul, where I show you everything that I bought for the current comic book week. And as always, guys, support the local comic shops, especially this free comic book day. And keep reading, keep collecting, and always remember to read your comics so we can have that great comic conversation. Have a brain lapse there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.